Thank you. Now, tonight we celebrate the life and talent of the Geordie who became an international superstar of music. He's just finished a 2-year world tour, playing 300 concerts to nearly 3 million people. That's him now. What's everlasting are the songs he's written, among them some of the most haunting and evocative of all modern popular music. Ladies and gentlemen, big welcome, please, Sting!
If you want someone, you can do the same. If you want to keep something precious, you gotta lock it up and throw away the key. Want to hold on to your possession, don't even think about it. If you love somebody, if you love somebody, if you love somebody, if you love, set them free, set them free, set them free, set them free. If it's the mirror you want, just look into my eyes. Our whipping boy, someone to despise. Our prisoner in the dark, tired of a change you just can't see. Our beast in a gilded cage, so some people ever want to be. If you love somebody, if you love somebody, if you love somebody, if you love somebody, set them free, set them free, set them free, set them free. You can't control an independent heart. You can't tear the world you love apart. Whatever condition to be, believe that we can live. We can live here and be happy and live. So many riches and so many souls. And everything we need that we want to possess. If you need somebody, call my name. If you want someone, you can do the same. If you want to keep something precious,
Good. That was wonderful. Good, tight band there.
Very nice band.
The last time we met was, what, 2 years ago, beginning of this tour, which has lasted ever since.
Doesn't seem like it. It seems like a month ago that I was here.
2 years.
It's 2 years.
51 countries.
51 countries, 2.7 million people, about almost 300 shows. A lot.
Absolutely. What's it like coming down from that, I suppose?
Very difficult. Very difficult to come home and just settle down, you know. I mean, a beautiful family and a beautiful home and a lovely wife, and it takes me a while to unpack. I have a suitcase in the corner. Trudy says, unpack it now. I can't.
But, I mean, it begs the question. I mean, here you are. You're so rich, immensely rich, successful, lovely wife, lord of the manor. Yes. It begs the question, where did it all go wrong?
Sometimes I pinch myself, really. You know, I'm extremely fortunate. You know, I'm from Newcastle. Dad was a milkman. I went to grammar school, but there was no indication that I would end up this fortunate. I must have been very good in a previous life, I think.
You think that?
I must have been St. Francis of Assisi to deserve this one. I don't know what I did.
You said, I read a quote from you once saying that you describe yourself as a Geordie yobbo, basically. And I wondered, it's that old question, isn't it? I mean, you can take the man out of Newcastle, but can you take Newcastle out of the man? And I wonder, in the journey so far, your 50 years that you've travelled a long way, how much there is left of that lad who left Newcastle?
I don't really want to take Newcastle out of me. I'm very proud of Newcastle. I think what's interesting about Newcastle is it's changed hands many times between the Scots and the English, between the Celts and the Saxons and the Danes and everybody else. And because we've changed hands so many times, we feel we don't belong to anybody but ourselves. Yeah. And that's it's a fierce regional identity. Yeah. I'm very proud I have that.
And what about, you talked there about your dad being a milkman. I mean, what kind of an influence did he have on your life?
He told me very early on that I should just go to sea.
Was he trying to get rid of you?
I think he was trying to get rid of me.
But was the seafarers in the family? I mean, were they...
Well, I'm from a long line of master mariners, but I think my dad just felt frustrated because he was trapped, you know, and he couldn't get out of it. And so he saw an opportunity for me, and he thought the sea was what I should do. I did actually go to sea for a while. I was a musician on the P&O line. Don't laugh. It was hell. And I did that for a while, and I got a seaman's card. But then I decided that music was the route for me to become Lord of the Manor, as you say.
Was your father a frustrated man in that sense?
I think he was. I think, like most of his generation, you know, he'd left the army after the war and just sort of fell into a job and didn't really have the education or the opportunities to move, you know. And they sent me to grammar school, and I got educated and saw the other world, another side of the world.
But did he want that for you?
I think so.
I mean, he didn't hold you back in any sense?
No, he didn't really. I mean, he didn't really understand my success as a singer. He was constantly asking me when I was going to get a proper job, and he was kind of bemused by the whole fame and the hoopla around me, you know. It's just war lad, you know. What's the fuss about? Which is nice too, you know. It kept my feet on the ground.
Did he live to see the huge success?
Yes, he did.
And did he live to savor it, or did he ever savor it?
Well, the best compliment he ever gave me was actually on his deathbed, and he said, you know, well, I said, we have the same hands. We have exactly the same hands. And he said, yes, but son, you use your hands much better than I did. And that was a full circle for me.
It's a nice thing to say, but a sad thing on his behalf.
Very
in
sad.
a sense. What about Mum? I mean, she was a musical influence, wasn't she, in the
My
family?
mum was a piano player, and she used to play tangos for some reason. And one of my earliest memories is sitting at her feet watching the pedals in this very arrhythmic way, and it was very strange. I think she encouraged me to play the guitar and sing, and I had to get up at parties and entertain people. And you know, they were full of praise, you know.
And you remain totally self-taught, don't you?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel inadequate because of that? I mean, with the wonderful band of musicians you got over there, all immensely qualified, I've got no doubt.
Look at them, looking at me.
Do you feel slightly inferior to them?
I've always been very fortunate to have worked in my entire career with musicians who are far better than me. I don't know how I've managed to convince them.
It's a deliberate policy, no doubt.
In Newcastle, the first band I was with, musicians were much better than me. The drummer, the piano player. knew more about music, but they were my teachers, and they still are, you know, and my challenge is to write music for them that will challenge them and have them engaged and enthusiastic about it. So I have to bring my game up to their level.
But there was no... that was very good. They're smiling, and they're still there, which is more important.
Might save me a lot of money, that.
There's music in the house, and you like music, obviously, but there's no great ambition to be a music person. There's no great ambition on your behalf to be a singer, rock and roller. Because we're now talking about the 60s, aren't we? And the Beatles were around, weren't they?
There are no real clues that I could do this, I could achieve that, except for the Beatles, that they came from a similar background,
Yes.
a northern town. They, again, were self-taught. And I suppose that gave an entire generation, which I belong to, the idea that perhaps they could do it. And I think we all owe an immense debt to the Beatles for actually just carving that career for us. You know, they're conquering America, writing their own music, conquering the world. It was an idea that was theirs.
What about when you start writing music? In this period, when you were there as a teenager or before that, did you ever sort of sit down and write a song?
Yes, I did. I think I remember writing songs in my head as a very small child, and I've always had an ability to you know, make melodies up and play chords and write lyrics. I don't know where it comes from. It's a mystery to me. I don't know how it happens, but it does, and I'm very grateful for it.
Well, you also like classical music too, don't you?
I'm obsessed with Bach, for example. I love J.S. Bach, and I play Bach extremely badly. Dominic is a brilliant classical guitarist. But I play enough so that I can be influenced by the ideas. And sometimes you can see parallels between something I've ripped off wholesale from him and I've used it as an inspiration for a song.
Can you demonstrate that? You were terrified I was going to ask that, weren't you?
terrified that you would say that.
I could see it in your face.
Oh, yeah, all right. This is, all right, I'll just play it. I'll shut up. I'll play a few bars, all right?
Of?
It's the cello suite by J.S. Bach. It's the first prelude. That's enough, okay?
No.
It goes on for hours. You don't want
Do you want me to tell you when it's enough? Or?
Yeah. No, don't.
So that's it.
You have this idea, this rhythmic idea, and then you sort of mess around with it. And I wrote this song based on that rhythmic idea. You see, it's similar. It's not the same, but it's similar. If he loved you like I loved you, I would walk away in shame. I'd move town, I'd change my name. When we dance, angels will run and hide their wings. Can you hear the similarity? Can you hear the similarity? Can I put it away now?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's a lovely song that you wrote there. You're a very romantic man, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Incurably romantic.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a nice thing to be. What about when you were a teenager growing up? I mean, when you became aware of the opposite sex for the first time? Now talking 60s in... But I'll get down the nitty-gritty now. We're talking 60s in Newcastle. We're talking the sexual revolution. Did it ever get there?
No. It got as far as Leeds.
I don't think it
Then did a U-turn.
But it bypassed Barnsley, that's for sure.
Well, I went to a boys' school.
Yeah, too.
And I never saw a girl till I was like 16. Bang. I mean, didn't mean bang. No, wow. Wow.
Wow. Where were these creatures to be seen?
Well, I used to go to the local hop, you know, and stand around and work up the courage to ask somebody to dance. And, you know, you'd never speak. You just say, you know, you say, can I dance? And then you dance, and she'd ignore you. Just be looking at the ceiling, you know. And say, thanks, at the end of it. That was it.
But it didn't put you off?
Oh, no. I've always been fascinated by women. They're such
amazing...
Well, I think they're superior creatures in every sense. I really do. No, I'm not just saying that. No, I mean that. I think women are superior. Mentally, psychologically, certainly physically.
All right, so there we are then. We're in Newcastle. We're at grammar school there. That was an all-boys grammar school, 2,000 kids there. What kind of environment was it?
It was a tough environment.
You got battered?
Yes, we got caned. I think it was probably the only way to control 2,000 boys. We'd get caned for everything. Being late, blotting your book. I don't actually mind. I think it did me good.
In what way did it do you good? Any battered doesn't do anybody any good, does it? I mean, did you like school?
No.
No, I hated school.
I didn't like
too.
school, but I had some very good teachers who really inspired me to carry on learning after I'd finished my education, and I'm grateful for that. Very good maths teachers, very good English teachers.
But then you went into education yourself. You became a teacher.
Kind of by accident. You know, I got A-levels and I ended up in teachers training college, and I had no intention of teaching.
But did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did. I did enjoy it eventually. I thought it was a good apprenticeship for a performer. You know, you get up in front of people and you pretend you know something.
Yes, a very hostile audience at times too, I imagine.
Pretty hostile.
But you have no, I mean, but you were there in a kind of holding pattern, basically, waiting for something to happen. And then you were married also, of course, and you had a small child at this time. And then you made this extraordinary decision. It looks so when you look at your life story. It's a risk, and I know that risk runs through your life. It's a word that you like and like discussing. But the risk was that you decided in this situation, a wife and a young child, to actually go to London and just take up music. There's nothing to go to. You just had this vague notion, if I'm right, if I read right.
It's true.
That music was in London. You had to go there.
There was no guarantee that I would make it, but I had this idea that I would try it. If I hadn't tried it, then I would have been very disappointed in myself. I think the clincher was going to the headmistress and saying, "I'm leaving," and she said, "But you'll lose your pension." I said, "Well, I'm going. I'm going anyway."
And what were you looking for at this time, though? I mean, what were you hanging about for? What was behind it all?
Well, I mean, one of the irons I had in my fire was I met this American drummer called Stuart Copeland, who'd seen me up in Newcastle with a band I was in, and said, "Look, if you ever come down, here's my number, give me a call." That was the only number I had, actually. So I called him and I said, "I'm in town." He said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm actually in your street." He was in a squat in Green Street in Mayfair on the top floor, which was owned by Michael Winner, I think.
And, probably still is.
And I went up there and we formed the Police.
Now is the start, of course, of the career that we're celebrating here today. One of the songs that you wrote for Police is a song called Roxanne. What's the history of that? Because there have been many interpretations put upon it by people. What is the real story?
The song is about a prostitute, and it was actually banned by the BBC the first time it came out. And I was in Paris with the Police, and for the first time I'd seen these ladies on the street. I'd never actually seen that before. I was very, protected from it. And I was kind of fascinated, as you would be, and kind of making stories up. What would it be like to have a relationship with one of these girls, and how would it feel? How would you feel? And I've always been interested in three-dimensional love songs. I mean, I Love You and You Love Me is pretty bland. It's pretty boring. It's very two-dimensional. But I Love You and You Love Somebody Else. You can walk around that as a writer. Yeah. Or, I Love You and You Have to Love Somebody Else is interesting. So I wrote Roxanne, and it's the song that paved the way for a career, and I'm very grateful to her. Although she doesn't really exist.
No.
But,
OK, well, we're going to hear it.
OK.
All right, the band's there. Sing, Roxanne.
You don't have to put on the red lights. Those days are over. You don't have to sell your body to the night. Roxanne, you don't have to wear that dress tonight. Work the street for money. You don't care if it's wrong or if it's right. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red lights. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red lights. Ever since I knew ya, I wouldn't talk down to ya. Told you once, I won't tell you again. I won't share you with another boy. You know my mind is made up, so put away your makeup. Told you once, I won't tell you again. This is a bad way. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red lights. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red lights. She did anyway. I love you since I knew you. I wouldn't talk down to you. Told you once, I won't tell you again. I won't share you with another boy. You know my mind is made up, so put away your makeup. Told you once, I won't tell you again. This is a bad way. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red lights. Roxanne, you don't have to wear that dress tonight. The trombone, Mr. Clark King.
So that was the start of it. That was the sort of platform for the career.
Well, that was a huge hit in America. And I remember we were riding around in a van, and every radio station we turned, that song was playing. It was the most thrilling experience. It's never the same. The first time you hear your song on the radio, it's so exciting.
Yes.
It's like sex, really.
And then does it get better or worse? Like sex?
It should get better.
What about the... I mean, it didn't... You became the biggest band in the world, the Police, but it didn't happen overnight, of course. I mean, there you are in the squat with Stuart, and yourself still on the floor in this friend's house. So, what was apprenticeship like? Was it boring clubs and lack of interest and what?
Lack of interest, generally, and we'd be, shifting our own gear up and down the M1, packing it up at night, getting back home at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, setting off again in the afternoon, slogging. And then we decided that we'd go to America. We went to America on Freddie Laker's Airways. It cost 60 quid each, which we could just about afford. And we got some gigs just on the strength of being English. They wanted to hear an English band with dyed blonde hair. And, and we did extremely well, except not many people turned up. We played in Poughkeepsie in New York State to 3 people. And they were all at different parts of the... It was called the Last Chance Saloon, believe it or not. And these 3 people were all isolated in the room, and I came out and said, look, why don't you just come down the front and what's your name, and and we introduced them, and the 6 of us just had a good time. We did 6 encores, and we did. And at the end of the night, the 3 of them came up and said, we're DJs, we're local DJs, all of us. We didn't know it from different radio stations.
Yeah.
We're going to play your record tomorrow. So it always, you never, ever underestimate the audience. You know who's there. It started there.
They literally started from that beginning. It took off from that point. So when you're with Police, and now the biggest band in the world, and everything in the world's at your feet, where it's 45 million records or something silly like that, and a huge success. It's an extraordinary point in your career to decide, as you decided at that time, to again give it all up. But why?
I've always felt that I should trust my instinct more than logic. And the logical thing would be to stay in that band because we were the most successful band. And as we say, we sold 45 million records. Why on earth would you leave that situation? Except my instinct told me to start again, to begin again. And I wanted to do that. And 15, 16 years later, I've sold more records than the Police. You know, it's been proved that my instinct was right. And I always hope I always have the courage to follow my instinct, even when I get older.
But also at that time, too, I mean, your life was in a mess, wasn't it? Because,
Yes.
I mean, let's just chart what was happening to you. I mean, the band was not the happiest band.
No.
Why was that?
Well, we all cared passionately about the music we were playing. We were all very strong personalities, and I wanted to run the show. But, you know, we had a fight. Literally had
physical fight.
Fisticuffs in between encores. You know, we'd be smiling and bowing and then go backstage and have a punch-up and then come back out and smile and blood here, you know. Stuart used to throw drumsticks at me and...
He used to write rude words on his drum kit,
He
didn't
wrote some extremely rude words on his drum kit, which are directed at me. But, you know, I have to say I adore Stuart as a brother. But we fought like brothers. And I just seemed a very kind of limiting thing for me. I just wanted to escape and just hire different musicians and have a bigger band and have more freedom. And that's what I did.
And your marriage was coming apart at that time as
My
well.
marriage was coming apart. I was coming apart. You know, I mean, I was 28 years old, 29 years old. The whole cliche of, you know, the success and the money and the fame and the women and the drink and whatever was real for me. And I don't know how people who are younger than me survived. You know, I was educated and I had a job and I thought I was sensible, but I still fell into those same traps. So yes, everything was falling apart. I needed to begin again. I needed to make a fresh start. And so that's what I did.
What about the I mean, you've never been a boozer, a big boozer?
No,
I mean,
no,
you've never been in danger of becoming that person, have you?
No, I'm not an addictive person in that sense, but I certainly had a good time.
And what about, did you still feel guilty in the sense that the marriage failed?
Yes.
You do?
Of course I do. You know, it's the
Well, some people don't.
only real failure of my life, you know, and Frances was an incredibly fantastic woman and a great wife and a great mother. And I appreciate what she did for me still.
And in that time, when all these things were happening to you, was there a sense in which you were destroying relationships as well, apart from your marriage and apart from the one with Stuart? I mean, did you feel that when you came out of all that you had a need to apologise to people?
Yeah, I did feel a need to become a better person. And I was helped by Trudy, my wife, now, who really pulled me out of by my ears and said, you better sort yourself out. You're not going to last much longer if you keep doing this. So I owe her my life, this present life I have now. So.
I read somewhere, actually, that they were talking earlier about Bach, and you said that your role model when you were writing songs was Beethoven. Was this true?
No.
It wasn't?
Chuck Berry, not Beethoven.
No. You said that at one point in your life you were Beethoven because he was this tortured soul. And then you went on to Bach because Bach was this family man with a big family.
Okay, yeah. I think as a role, I mean, people would say that, you know, to create great art, you need to be in some sort of turmoil. You know, some sort of, you live in a garret and be a drug addict or whatever. And a lot of people subscribe to that, and I did too. But it's not true. You can be happy and make great art. And J.S. Bach is a classic case, great family man. His only vice is drinking coffee. He was a coffee addict. But, you know, he wrote fantastic music and he was happy.
So what I was getting at was part of this rehabilitation, in a sense, would reflect in your music, that we would have a different kind of attitude in your music.
Well, you know, I have enough sadness in my life as a kind of reservoir of memories to draw on whenever I want to write a sad song.
What, the death of your father? And,
you know, the normal things you have as 50 years of life. I don't need to manufacture trauma in order to create. And I want to. I want to live a happy life.
Now, at the end of this tour, you got together with the band and decided that you're going to put down the tour, the part of it, on record. And that's what the new album's called. It's called All This Time.
It's called All This Time.
It's a song about your father, too, isn't it?
It is true.
Yeah, that's right. And you did it in a kind of a different way. The setting was to be Tuscany. You're going out there, invite a few friends out and set it down.
I invited 200 people, 200 fans to my backyard. I have a very nice house in northern Italy. And there's going to be a webcast on the internet. And the day I chose for this wonderful, joyous event was September the 11th. And I've always been good with timing, of course. So that morning, we heard the appalling news from New York and Washington. And I had 200 people arriving. I had the band here, some of them from New York, some of them who couldn't contact their families. I held a band meeting. I said, look, I don't think I can sing tonight. I simply don't feel like it. How do you feel? Well, unanimously, each one of them said, we have to play. This is what we do. And we have a responsibility to the people coming. And so I said, okay, what we'll do is we'll sing Fragile, which is a song which I thought was an appropriate sentiment. We'll ask the audience for a minute's silence, and then we'll shut down the webcast. I thought it was as a mark of respect, I didn't want that to go out. So in fact, what we did, and shut the webcast down, and then I said to the audience who were sitting there, and they were in shock, as just everybody was. I said, well, what would you like? We can stop, we can have a chat, we can have a drink, or we can play. What do you want? And they all said, oh, you better play. So we began the set very tentatively, I have to say. I really didn't want to be there. But as the evening progressed, as the songs progressed, the mood changed. There was like a defiance and almost establishing our right that we have a right to express ourselves. We have a right to make music, because terrorism is about killing all of that, dead. And so, fortunately, we kept the tapes rolling, and the show that we recorded was not the show we'd intended to record at all. It was something entirely different, and it's a memoir of that terrible day. It's a very powerful example, but
you're talking thing about lyrics that had a meaning, of course. Fragile, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics of that, I mean, as an anthem, if you like, for the day, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, the song was written really about Lennon's death. You know, basically the idea of how fragile human beings are in the face of bullets, guns, and bombs. And it did seem appropriate as a sentiment that night, and that went out all over the world.
Well, let's hear that, and also you're backing that too with an optimistic song, Brand New Day. So
I am an optimist, I have to say. I think it's important to be optimistic. I think pessimism is a disease which I don't want to have. So.
All right, the band away.
Thank you, Sting.
If blood will flow, and flesh and steel are one, drying in the color of the evening sun. Tomorrow's rain washes stains away. There's something in our minds will always stay. On and on, the rain will fall. On and on, the rain will fall. Perhaps this final act was meant to clinch a lifetime's argument that nothing comes from violence and nothing ever could. For all those born beneath an angry star, thus we forget how fragile we are. On and on, the rain will fall like tears from a star, like tears from a star. On and on, the rain will say how fragile we are, how fragile we are. crying in the color of the evening sun. Tomorrow's rain will wash the stains away. With something in our mind will always stay. On and on the rain will fall like tears from a star, like tears from a star. On and on the rain will say how fragile we are, how fragile we are. On and on the rain will fall, the rain will fall. Rain will fall. Rain will fall. How many of you people out there been hurt in some kind of love affair? How many times do you swear that you'd never love again? How many long and sleepless nights? How many lies? How many fights? And why would you want to put yourself through all that again? Love is pain, I hear you say. Love is a cruel and bitter way of paying you back for all the faith you ever had in your brain. Could it be what you need the most? To leave you feeling just like a ghost. You never want to feel so sad and lost again. Or you could be looking through a broken rainy weather. You see a picture of her smiling at you while you were still together. You could be walking down the street, who's she a chance to meet, but that same old smile you've been thinking of all day. We turn the clock to zero, honey. Silver stock was spent, the money was starting up a brand new day. Turn the clock all the way back, I'm begging her to take me back. I'm thinking in a brand new way. Turn the clock to zero, sister, you'll never know how much I miss you. Starting up a brand new day. It's a brand new day. Turn the clock to zero, boss, the rivers wild will swim across me. Starting up a brand new day. Happened to you like it happened to me. Except for no immunity, there's no guarantee. I say, love is such a fall. So if you should find yourself in it, and it is some time for reflection, you say, baby, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I say, wait a minute, wait a minute. I turn the clock to zero, honey. Sell the stock, we spend the money, we're starting up a brand new day. Turn the clock all the way back, I'm begging her to take it back. I'm thinking in a brand new way. Turn the clock to zero, boss, the rivers wild will swim across me. Starting up a brand new day. It's a brand new day. Turn the clock to zero, buddy, don't wanna be no fucking dirty way. Starting up a brand new day. I'm the rhythm and your tune. I'm the sun and you're the moon. I'm the battle and you're the king. You're the beach and I'm the wave. You're the plow and I'm the lay. You're the club and I'm the hay. I'm the train and you're the station. I'm the flagpole to your nation. Yeah, 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 yeah. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up and be counted. Every boy and every girl. Stand up, all the lovers in the world. We're starting up a brand new day. We're starting up a brand new day. We're starting up a brand new day.
I didn't mean to bring this.
Right there. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. That was wonderful. Last time we talked, you talked about performing and what it meant to you, and you said that it was an illusion, performing. That you went out there and you just sang, and often you didn't care to bother to emote, if you like. You know, the words just came out. And sometimes you couldn't face the words, that's why you did it. But I would imagine that on the circumstance you described to me before you did that, that can't have been the same kind of performing on that night.
No. I think to sing is, if you're feeling too emotional, you simply can't physically sing. It simply can't be done. You could play a guitar, you could play something, but to actually sing, it's too close to the emotional center of the soul, for me. That night, I sang like I'd never sung before. I was completely taken up with the emotion of it, and only just got through it. But you know, you're right about the illusion side of it, because I'm a very introvert, shy person. To come out in front of millions of people is not a natural thing for me to do.
No.
Ever. Even after 25 years, it still feels terrifying, and I never take it for granted. I enjoy it, but it's not something that I feel this is what I should be doing, really. It feels very strange to me.
Do you get nervous?
Yes.
You? I mean,
I do get
how
nervous.
To what
I get
point?
nervous enough to perform. I'm not blasé about it. I take it very seriously, and I do my job. Once I cross that line, I will do it. But before, I'm always shaky.
What is it, I wonder? What does it you've obviously thought about it. What does it fulfill in you, in performing?
Well, most of the performers I know are the same way as me. They're not people who walk into a room and expect, everything to happen. They kind of like to stand in the corner and just watch, As a writer, that's what you do.
That's precisely.
You watch people, you look for stories, and you listen. When you're the center of attention, it's very hard. So most people are like that I know.
Does it get any better, the performing? I mean, do you get a sense now as you get older that it's not going to last forever, and so let's enjoy it while we can?
Oh, I do enjoy it. I mean, there's a feeling when you walk out in front of, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000, 100,000. It really gives you a shot in the arm. It's the most amazing feeling. I'm not sure I could replace that. I'd like to sing for the rest of my life. I really would.
But you're 50 now.
I'm 50.
So it's a time to...
Half a century, as my children say.
Half a century. But do you think you're halfway through your life, get to 100?
I could stand another 50 years of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely. Good one.
Bring them on.
But I mean, it's time to look back, isn't it? You've done all that. So when you look back on your career from Makeup, what conclusions have you come to?
Well, I think all the dreams I had as a young man have been realized, and tenfold, 100-fold. And so I'm looking to create a new dream for myself as an older man, a wiser man, hopefully. My intention always is to be better as a musician. There's so much to learn. There's so much I'm curious about. Certainly nowhere near the end of music, the eternal mystery of what music is and what it means. And you know, life generally is a mysterious journey, and it just keeps getting more and more curious.
And have you ever, throughout all your career as a musician, the 25 years that we've been celebrating, have you ever felt like there was a moment in time when you thought, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to give it up, go back to teaching?
The money's not very good in teaching.
That's the reason why you didn't go back, otherwise you would have gone back.
And it should be. It should be much better. You know?
But was there ever a moment in time where you doubted, where you thought, no, I've had enough of this, I'm going back? You haven't?
Oh, no.
No.
I like singing.
You do?
Yeah. I think I'm good at it, actually.
You're not bad at it. You passed the audition, that's for sure. OK, well, it's been fascinating talking to you about your career. You've got a long time ahead of you. I mean, you look so young. You look very, very young. You don't look 50. Can I ask you about this tantric movement?
No.
It's just that, I mean, it's not about the...
Didn't Billy Colony, didn't we demonstrate it for you the last time?
No, it's not tantric sex.
Oh, OK.
I'm interested. It's the... Well, I am, but it's the... I mean, it's a way of life, isn't it? Is it a philosophy?
I mean, I'm not an expert in tantric yoga at all, but what I know of it and what I appreciate about it is that everything we do, eating, walking, breathing, having sex, is an opportunity to give thanks for the miracle of life that we have. And I think sex is a wonderful way of giving thanks both to your partner and to God. I mean, what a fantastic mechanism for making life. Sex, I mean, it's fantastic, it's great fun, and has this cosmic significance. I mean, we shouldn't take it for granted. We should treat it like a sacrament almost. I mean, it's fantastic fun, but it's also amazingly significant.
I didn't realise all these years it was a kind of religious experience. So
it's always been a religious experience for me, always.
Has it really?
Yeah. Well, to be honest.
Go on, to be honest, no.
There have been occasions when it hasn't been very religious, but...
But it's a lifestyle that you've pursued, generally speaking. And,
yeah, I do yoga every day. I do these movements and all this breathing, and people do say, you look very young. I say, well, no, I'm 50, and I'm proud to be 50, but this is how I look.
And what about this song that you've chosen to close with?
Every Breath You Take is probably my most successful song. It was written in Jamaica. I was sitting at the desk that used to belong to Ian Fleming in GoldenEye. And it was this time of turmoil in my life, and I wrote this song, and I knew it was a hit immediately.
Did you?
Yeah. And apparently it's been #1 longer than any other song in the history of the American charts. So I'm pretty proud of that.
You're fond of it.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you again for being my guest. I much enjoyed it. Thanks, Tim.
See you later.
My thanks to Sting. Next week, my guests are Ben Elton, Robbie Coltrane, Samuel L. Jackson and Diana Krall. Until then, from all of us here, a very good night. Good night.
Every breath you take, and every move you make, every bond you break, every step you take, I'll be watching every single day, and every word you say, every game you play, every night you stay, I'll be watching. Can't you see you belong to me? I'm a place with every step you take, and every move you make, and every vow you break, every smile you fake, every claim you stake. I'll be watching. Since you know I've been lost with love, I dream at night and can only see your face. I look around, but it's you I can't replace. I feel so cold and I long for your embrace. I keep crying, baby, baby, please. Every smile you fake, every claim you stake, I'll be watching you. Every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching